Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buy Box Bandits podcast, episode 186. Today, we're going to be talking all things trade show, wholesale, and ASD coming up this week. How you can find local trade shows in your local area to expedite the process of getting into wholesale a lot easier than just cold calling and cold emailing suppliers, with none other than our main man, Corey Ganim here, the best man for the job in terms of filling us in on best practice, wholesale, Amazon, and everything like that. If you haven't already tried out Boxum, our sponsor of today's episode and every episode moving forward, our brand new FBA shipping tool, make sure you take a look at that. 2D barcodes for a fraction of the cost of competitors, modern shipment flow. You'll very quickly see it is significantly better than the FBA listing tool or Seller Central, which you're currently using, and you can get rid of the clunky, expensive, and outdated softwares that currently had dominated the Amazon community. Try out Boxum completely free at Boxum.com. But Corey, let's talk some wholesale, talk some trade show action. I got a big agenda of stuff we're going to go through. Garrett made fun of me for saying corporate agenda.
Yeah,
we're here though. We're here. That's what I'm saying, right? But for anyone who's unfamiliar, Corey, you want to just break down your background, your current Amazon business, setup just with the remote operation, virtual assistants, all that.
So 5 miles. So guys, quick background for anybody that hasn't heard my story. So I started in corporate software sales. This was back in 2019. Had been selling on Amazon for about 2 years up to that point, just online arbitrage and selling used books. In 2019, went full scale into wholesale. Started working directly with brands, and then from there started working with distributors. Fast forward today, 2024, we're doing about 3 to 4 million per year in revenue. Done about 12 million lifetime sales. Now buying only from brands or only from distributors, with a team of 2 virtual assistants that run pretty much the whole thing. And we're fully remote because we just use prep centers. And most of our suppliers ship straight to Amazon as well, so it makes it super easy.
How much were you making at your first job?
I think my W-2 was like 69 a year, 68 a year, something like that.
That's not bad. And then commission on top?
Yeah, so commission on top as well. Yeah.
Way more fun sitting on Zoom with the boys buying, buying a 1,000 of a Gillette razor.
Yeah, so much more fun.
So obviously we know the difference between wholesale being the more kind of graduated version of online and retail arbitrage, where a lot of people aspire to be. How do trade shows fit into this? Because obviously we've all been to ASD the past couple of years, or me last year was my first time, which is basically one of the largest trade shows in the US where suppliers come hang out. But how can pretty much everyone, as long as you live within, a couple hours of a major city, or if you're interested in traveling, take advantage of trade shows, and what's the actual benefit of them?
Yeah, and we can go super deep into this because there's so much when it comes to trade shows. Like, they're so powerful in so many ways. But really the biggest benefit of trade shows is being able to meet your suppliers face to face, right? Building that rapport, building that relationship. Because honestly, guys, you can do more for building rapport in 10 to 15 minutes in person than you can in weeks or months of phone calls and emails. So you just build that relationship a lot quicker. You can place orders at the show. A lot of times trade shows have like show pricing, so you're going to get specials. But the relationship building is like the key component for sure.
And so what it actually looks like basically is like kind of similar to any convention. So there's all these booths basically. And what do you want to, like, if you dropped, the average arbitrage seller in a trade show, like what are they looking to get out of it? What should they be doing? Let's break down kind of like the whole framework.
Yeah, so they should be targeting specific suppliers or at least specific brands going into the show. So most shows on their website are going to have a list of all the exhibitors that are attending. So it just comes down to, a week or two before the show, taking a look at that list and seeing which of the exhibitors are either on Amazon, right, if they're a brand, or which of the exhibitors are distributors that carry brand name products that are selling on Amazon. So you should be walking into the show with a short list of 20 to 30 vendors that you really want to talk to. You go up to those booths, you start a conversation, but you're going to have a lot of just random side conversations too. And a lot of times those are the best ones when you get to talking to a vendor that you had no idea about, they weren't on your list, they weren't on your radar, but those conversations end up being really lucrative. So that's kind of the plan there.
I think that preparation piece cannot be understated, right? Because if we kind of compare 2 separate scenarios, one, an Amazon seller walks up to a booth saying, "Hey, I'm an Amazon seller. What kind of stuff can you buy or can you sell me?" As opposed to someone else who walks up to the same booth that says, "Hey, looking for this SKU, this SKU, this SKU within Gillette. I'm looking for that Oral-B SKU, and I also am looking for this SKU as well."
Right.
These are the sorts of quantities I'm looking for. This is sort of target pricing that I'm looking for. Where can we kind of meet each other in the middle and make this work, right?
Right.
Establishing legitimacy, building trust off the bat, establishing way more authenticity than the other person that's, showing up in a tank top and kind of skater shoes that's asking, what can you sell me? You know what I'm saying? It's a way different vibe.
Totally. And I witnessed this firsthand, right?
I
So I
was
was at a
just gonna
trade.
ask you to bring that up, man. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one specific
Yeah. I
example.
mean, that's exactly what it made me think of. So I was at a trade show earlier this year and I was at a vendor's booth and I was talking to the vendor. He was the owner. And this guy walks up and like, I swear to God, can't make this up. And it's a perfect example of what not to say. So this guy walks up, pretty much just interrupts our conversation and says like, hey man, what do you have to sell that sells well on Amazon, right? What are you guys carrying that sells well on Amazon? And the guy, like the vendor turns and looks at him. He's like, what? Like, he's like, you don't even know me. Like, I've never even talked to you. I'm sitting here talking to a customer and you come up and interrupt me asking what you can buy that just flip on Amazon. He's like, well, first of all, I have a lot of stuff that sells on Amazon, but I'm not just going to give you the best stuff because I don't know you. And now that you've kind of rudely interrupted my conversation like that, I don't want to have anything to do with you. The guy basically told him like, get out of here. Right. So that's just like kind of an extreme example of how not to position yourself. But what Garrett was saying is exactly how to position yourself, right? You walk up to a booth, you already have an idea in your head of what you want to buy, and you start to have a serious conversation about, hey, I see you're carrying brands X, Y, and Z, right? I see them sitting at your booth. I've got an idea of a couple of specific products from those brands that I've been looking for, right? I'm ready to buy. I have the quantity in mind that I'm interested in. I even know the price I need to be at to make it work. Let's talk about what we can do to maybe have me walk away from this booth with an order in your hand, right?
No.
You want to frame everything through like what is going to put money in their pocket right there.
Now, when we talk about like actually approaching a booth, are the Jordans required or that's just like an added benefit?
Are the what required, you said? The Jordans?
Jordans, the high top ones. Yeah,
those are
top
required.
ones.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
they're
take you way
required.
more
Oh,
seriously.
got you. Okay, cool.
They take you way
And-
more seriously.
And
Now,
you'll
so for
notice
the-
what Corey mentioned about like, approaching a supplier with specific products in mind. The cool thing is this translates too, because say you don't live near a major city, or say you're not comfortable with going to trade shows or whatever, right? A good cold email is going to be very similar. It's going to actually specify, right? And that what most of these suppliers are getting, both in person and online, is, hey, I want to buy your stuff to sell on Amazon, which is me. What benefits me? Right. Instead of, hey, I want to form a long-term relationship with you guys. And I know you carry XYZ brand. Can we do anything pricing wise to get going with that as soon as possible? Right. Maybe you take a little bit less margin than you want to start building that relationship, and everything. No, it's
Totally.
super important in terms of actually breaking that down. So what is let's break down like a successful conversation and then an unsuccessful conversation in terms of like objecting handling, and a lot of stuff you'll get pretty frequently like that in terms of with a vendor at a trade show. Like if any of you guys live on the East Coast, there's probably trade shows every weekend in different niches. We'll talk about finding them in a couple minutes as well.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of like the most common objection you're going to run into is the classic, sorry, we don't work with Amazon sellers, or we don't want to sell to Amazon sellers, right? And a lot of times that is just kind of like a phantom objection that they just throw out there to just quickly disqualify as many people as possible, right? Because let's face it, 95% of Amazon sellers that get that objection are just going to say, oh, okay, and they're going to walk away, right? But the ones that kind of push past that and question that and just say, well, okay, understood. Let me ask, why is it that you don't work with Amazon sellers? Because I see some brands that you're carrying here and I've got products that I'm ready to buy. So like if I was able to place an order today, is that something you'd be willing to make an exception on, right? Like always kind of flipping the script and turning it back to, hey, I can put money in your pocket today. Because that's all they care about. It's always framing your approach through what is going to get them paid as soon as possible. So the Amazon seller quote unquote objection is complete garbage, because I guarantee you they don't care where you sell if you're going to place an order today. It doesn't matter.
Especially if it's a distribution company, right? Distribution companies, they don't really care who you are, because all they're after is money, right? Those salespeople don't have any sort of equity in their company, in the business, in the brands that they carry, right? All they're doing is trying to move products. Brands are a little different when you're talking to an actual brand.
Totally.
Of course, they're going to be a little bit more selective. But Miles, you were talking about kind of like a successful conversation. When we're talking about distribution companies, it's first and foremost, getting some sort of point of contact that you can reference moving forward, right? You want to walk away from that conversation with a name, a phone number, an email of your rep, right? Of the
Right.
person that you will be contacting to, whether
That's
they're
a
at the
great
show
point.
or not. From there, it's all the basic touch points that you would need to move forward. MOQs, lead times, where they ship from, right? Any sort of how the payment method, right? Is it wire? Is it 20% down? Is it everything up front, right? All the information that you would want to know to put that order through. You want to learn all this up front, right? Because ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to call them and say, okay, ask those same
You're going to
sorts of
ask those
questions
questions
after.
anyways. Yeah, exactly. Dude, that's such a great point, right? Because I was just going over this past week on one of the days during the wholesale challenge, we were going over like the key questions to ask any new vendor. And you're so right. If you're at a trade show and you're talking to that vendor in person, being able just to knock those questions out in the matter of seconds, as opposed to having to go back and forth with 10 different emails when you get home, is so much more powerful. And one of the questions that I always teach people to ask, and especially if you're with the vendor in person, is something along the lines of, well, hey, if we covered the shipping, would we be able to send you guys some labels to just slap on the case packs, and we'll send them straight to Amazon, right? So that way you're not having to pay for shipping, we're paying for the shipping, and it's getting to market faster. So it's going to sell faster, which means I can buy more sooner, right? Again, always framing things through the lens of what's going to put more money in their pocket. So by approaching it that way in person, 80% of the time, they're like, oh yeah, we can do that, right? All we got to do is just slap a label on a box. We're already doing that anyway, so sure. And so with just that single conversation, simple conversation, you just basically convince them to ship straight to Amazon for you, saving you a ton of time and saving you a ton of money and not having to ship that to a prep center or prep it yourself.
Well, the other thing that you've talked about, and again, guys, this isn't necessarily just for ASD. This is for, I mean, there's
This is for
hundreds
every
of-
trade
this is
show.
this is all wholesale
This
relationships.
is just
in
like
general.
trade shows.
Yeah,
regardless of in person or not. Yeah.
But the other thing that you've mentioned before is, of course, you want to have some sort of documentation process, right? Because you're going to talk to whatever trade show you go to, you're ideally going to talk to tens and tens and tens of different companies. And so
Right.
something that you've brought up, after every conversation, do a little voice memo into your phone, essentially documenting who you talk to, the name, and all the bullet points that we already talked through: lead time, where they ship from, MOQs, what sorts of products do they have, what sorts of products are you interested in, are there any sort of like intervals where you can get further discounts? All this information you want to document, again, so when you're back in your hotel room, it's all right there. And so when you're looking
Such
through
a
that
hack.
catalog, well, if you hit 20K, you get an extra 10% off, or whether you hit 50K, you get an extra 10% off. Or they ship to New Jersey, so you have to let your Delaware warehouse know that it's going to be coming through. All these sorts of things, if you're not documenting it, it's just wasted time.
So that is so key. And I want to take a minute to touch on that again because it's so important and it's so easy. And I think a lot of people just gloss right over it. So what Garrett is saying, right, and this is something we've said many times before, if you're at a trade show, again, regardless of what trade show you're at, you're talking to people in person, you utilize the voice memos app on your phone. Every iPhone comes with a voice memos app. And so what you do is when you're talking to a vendor or you're talking to anybody, right, as soon as you disengage from that conversation, you step a couple of feet away, you whip out your phone, you make a quick voice memo, and you just tell yourself, all right, this is who I just talked to, this is what we talked about, this is the company he's with. And then like Garrett said, you're noting all of the answers to the questions you asked. This is their MOQ, this is their lead time, right? You're making all these verbal notes so that when you get back to your hotel room that night, you're gonna have a stack of like 20 to 30 business cards. And I promise you, you're gonna look at those business cards and be like, wait, who is that guy? What did we talk about? Right? But if you have a voice memo to pair with the business card, you have such a more crystal clear like vision of the conversation, and it's going to allow your follow-ups to be so much better. Like it's going to make your sourcing and your relationship building 10 times more effective, especially if you can reference stuff that you talked about on a day that you talked to 30 other people. Like they're going to be impressed by that.
Sure. So in general, from the suppliers or from, I guess, from an Amazon source perspective, Corey, can you break down what they want and what they don't want, right? So we can help people qualify as good as possible for exactly what those vendors are looking for, both if you're cold calling, cold email, and showing up in person or in person at a trade show or any other type of way of finding suppliers.
So are you saying what are suppliers looking for in an Amazon
so
seller?
what do they
or
want and what do they not want? Yeah, so
Got
we
it.
can,
Okay.
because a lot of people don't even know better and end up fitting in the what they don't want category.
Right. So let's start by talking about why most wholesale suppliers, brands, and distributors alike really don't like Amazon sellers. And this is not me saying this out of my mouth. I've literally asked suppliers before, why do you hate working with Amazon sellers? And usually the most common answer is they're just not sophisticated, right? They're small fish. They beg for a wholesale account, they open the account, they buy one product one time, and they're never heard from again, right? So that is the main reason why Amazon sellers get a bad rap, and we have to kind of overcome those objections to show we're serious. So in general, it's being small buyers, breaking MAP policies, not being good communicators, trying to return product if a listing goes down, for example, just doing every amateur thing in the book. And so that's what that's ways not to be, right? Talking about ways to get your suppliers to love you and to be one of their favorite customers. Pay your bill on time, right? Pay your bill quickly, over communicate, help them move product that's a slow mover for them. So guys, just like us as Amazon sellers, distributors will buy product that they have trouble moving, right? And if you can kind of help them out of a bind by buying something that's almost as a favor to them, I'm not saying take a huge loss on it, but if you've got to break even or buy, a couple months worth of stock, that goes so far in their minds. They're going to love you for that. And also just in general, spending more money. The more you can spend with them, the more they're going to like you. Simple as that.
Okay. And so we know what they want, right? What it qualifies a good supplier for us, because there's a lot of Telegram and Discord stuff out there that can be very actually detrimental, not even just okay for your business, or doesn't help much. It can be very detrimental. So what is a bad wholesale supplier like? What should people be avoiding?
So let me make it very simple for you. Let me make it crystal clear. Best case scenario, you're buying directly from the brand, right? No middleman, no distributor, nothing. You're buying straight from the brand. That's best case. Second best case is you're buying from a distributor who's buying from the brand. Anybody else that's not buying directly from the brand it's a risk, right? It's not good. So you either buy from the brand or you buy from somebody who is buying from the brand. Simple as that. Anything else is a very, very, very big risk in 2024 with how strict Amazon's being.
And that comes back to being able to prove authenticity and everything. And that's why, from a beginner's perspective, arbitrage stuff makes so much sense, because you're buying from such verified places. You're buying from Kohl's, you're buying from Walmart, etc. here, when who knows if they're going to take receipts or invoices from XYZ distributor 123, basically as well. So another thing you've done great with over the years, Corey, is building leverage with group buys and going at different buys together and different supplier relationships with minimum order quantities with different sellers. So talk about that side of things, because I know you and Garrett even been working on some stuff together with that and everything.
Yeah, so the bulk of the group buys that we've been doing have been inside our wholesale network mastermind community. And so Garrett is one of the bigger suppliers that actually sells to the folks inside the mastermind there. So what we've been doing is, an opportunity will come across the table. Usually it's first come, first serve. And depending on how well the product's moving and how much product is available, we'll decide anywhere from, 2 to 4 or 5 sellers will participate in that buy. And so a lot of the stuff we're buying through a distributor, but the distributor is buying it from the brand. The brand knows where it's ending up. They knows we're going to be selling it on Amazon, and we're authorized by the brand to do so. And then it just comes down to pooling the money, placing the order with the supplier, and supplier prepping it and shipping it straight to Amazon on our behalf. So it's been pretty seamless so far. I think to date, in the last 2 months, we've spent like 1.1 or 1.2 million total between all the folks in the mastermind. Basically, that's a sum of the group buys that we've done in the last 60 days.
What I loved was what we were talking about last year. I was like, you started basically making content and posting in January 2023, right?
Yep.
And then it was less than 2 months later, you and Sawyer, when Sawyer was under 18.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. I was like, well, I don't really know who this 17-year-old teenager is, but he seems legit.
Yep.
And he knows his stuff. So all right, we're just going to buy $70,000 worth of pressure cookers together. Or it was air fryers. That's what it was.
There we go. And that's the power of Twitter though, man. You knew, both guys knew you were about it.
That was before the Dylan Sawyer show was even born, though.
Oh, way before.
Yeah,
that was
year
before
before.
his Twitter.
For sure.
His
So
Twitter growth.
another thing I've seen people talk about with trade shows, even like years and years ago, is the trade show no show method, where you don't even go, but you actually get a lot of similar value from the trade show, right? And that is accessible to 100% of every single person listening to this today. So break down that strategy, Corey. The not even going to the trade show, but being able to access the supplier list and place some orders and get some relationships set up.
Yeah, and this is a hack, guys. I mean, listen, best case scenario, you go to the show, you meet the vendors face to face, you build the relationship, right? But it's not always feasible. So what you can do is pretty much every trade show out there on their
Any good one.
website,
Yeah.
any good one is going to have an exhibitor list, right? Look for that exhibitor list. And that list is going to be everybody that's paying to have a booth at that trade show. So depending on the show, right? If let's just say it's like an automotive show, right? It's in the automotive niche. Well, you're going to get a list of all those exhibitors. A lot of those exhibitors are going to be suppliers or brands or distributors in the automotive niche. So you're going to go down that list pretty much line by line and look up each of those of the companies there, see if they're a brand, see if they're a distributor, and basically qualify them, vet them. And if you do that for every exhibitor on the list, you're going to end up with a lot of really qualified, vetted leads that at that point you just contact, right? You just contact. It's pretty simple at that point.
The other thing that I feel like people don't really understand is, especially when you travel to a trade show, all these sales reps are staying locally, right?
Right.
And so one of the best ways to make an impression is to take
go
them out to
gambling.
dinner.
Go gamble.
Well,
Yeah,
that
go,
and
yeah,
take them out to, these people got to eat, right? And they're
Right.
probably eating on their business's dime, and you are too, right? And so one of the easiest ways to be remembered is, hey, do you want to, I mean, however you want to, whatever
Yeah,
restaurant you want
ask
to go
Steven to come with you too. Steven would love to come with you as well. Definitely ask Steven to come with you too if you're doing that. Well, but yeah, no, I mean that makes a ton of sense too. Or any other, offline capacities, any edge you can get that sets you apart from just the person that comes up, like Corey was saying, that says, "Hey, I want to buy your stuff to sell on Amazon too,"
Exactly.
and everything. Okay, Corey, how do we find trade shows? Because obviously ASD, we're all going to it this coming week in Las Vegas. It's free to go to if you register prior. We have a free networking event on Monday night, August 5th, 6 p.m. Eastern. And ASD also happens in March. The big one's in August though. But it is free if you live around, you might as well go every time, right? How do you find other trade shows, and what are some of the other ones that come to top of your mind that are big for Amazon sellers throughout the year in different locations?
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the shows that, and I wouldn't say these are necessarily big for Amazon sellers, because most trade shows, 98% of the attendees are not going to be Amazon sellers, right? Aside from ASD.
That's
ASD
how
is
you'd
an
want it,
exception.
though.
Right. That's what I was about to say. I was like, that is a huge advantage. So guys, really at the end of the day, the best trade shows are going to be the ones that are local to you, where a lot of the vendors, a lot of the suppliers, a lot of the brands are going to be in your local area. And not only do you get to meet them face-to-face once, but you can maintain that kind of like local face-to-face feel. So that was just a side note. But some other ones that are really good that I've heard of other Amazon sellers having success at would be one like Sweets and Snacks, which I think is in Chicago.
Chicago, or
yeah.
either that or Indiana. I think it's Chicago though.
It is
Yeah.
Chicago. There's one in California too that Eric talked about a bunch.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's a very big grocery and candy brand and distributor type show. I've heard a lot of people had luck at SEMA, which is in Las Vegas every year. That is a tool and automotive trade show that, again, maybe 1% of the attendees are selling on Amazon, right? So you have a huge leg up and very little competition if you show up to some of these shows as a seller. And then there's Expo East and Expo West, which are much more brand focused. Not many distributors are going to be at those shows. It's going to be a lot of brands. And then again, guys, hundreds of local and regional trade shows going on that are way better than even some of these bigger national ones. And the website to find these, this is a hack. Like I never knew about this until a couple of weeks ago. I have no idea how I'd never heard of it. It is 10times.com. So 10times.com. And that is basically an international trade show directory. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of events going on in every city in the world. It's a free tool. You can, filter by state, region, category, etc. So easy to find lots of good trade shows there.
Boom. That's what's up, right? And yeah, you can use ChatGPT too. ChatGPT be hooking it up.
Yep.
As well too, and that's just in general. Like as we finish up here, ChatGPT can be used for supplier outreach templates, for Amazon customer service, virtual
Dude,
assistant
speaking of
applications.
ChatGPT, I made a prompt a couple weeks ago, just was kind of sitting here messing around. It was like a 2 or 3 paragraph prompt, but to basically the goal was to get some pretty specific trade shows that would be good for Amazon sellers. And so I created the prompt, put it in there, used tool and automotive as like the category, and it gave me 5 really good, like totally legit trade shows. And I guarantee you, if you just show up, walk around and talk to people, you're going to just fall into profitable products. Like, it's not that hard.
Absolutely. Okay.
That's
And
it.
then, so what does it look like after you go to a trade show, right? What does a successful mission and successful post trade show actually looks like for the people who might not be familiar on like the process of like placing orders and lead times and getting shipments to FBA, like all that stuff as we finish up here?
Yeah, so I mean, successful post trade show would simply mean you're following up with the people that you met at the show and you're starting to place orders, right? That's not to say you're going to buy from every person you meet at the trade show, because that's just not realistic. But if the goal is to leave the show within the next, couple of weeks post show, having picked up 1 to 3 new suppliers, right? 1 to 3 new suppliers that you're buying from. Because the ROI on that's going to be huge. If it costs you $1,000 or $2,000 to go to the trade show, but you just landed 1 to 3 new relationships that are going to make you that much in profit every single month, then that's a massive ROI. So again, it's just following up with the people you meet, getting pricing, and just starting to place orders with the small handful that you're going to end up doing business with.
But then the real strat is whatever your cost of going is, you just put that on black and then you get it back.
Ooh,
Right, yeah.
that's
And then
that's
if you lose, you double up and then you win that and then you're good.
okay. That's a game for y'all late in the episode too. And then where can people find what you got going on, Corey, as well as the networking event we have going on at ASD and presumably future ASDs as well? We'll have stuff like that too.
Yeah, so guys, if you want to find out more about kind of what I'm doing in the wholesale space, check out the Amazon Wholesale podcast, and specifically episode 13, because that's what we talked all about trade shows and ASD specifically. So if you guys want another episode that's similar to the one you just listened to, Amazon Wholesale podcast episode 13. As far as where to find us at the trade show, that event I think is already sold out. Actually, we've got every ticket spoken for. Yeah.
Really? Oh shit.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
And we even increased the limit because we know some people aren't going to show up. So like we made it to where we added like 50 or 60 extra tickets and still sold out already.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. All right. So we got some work to do then, dude. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Cool. All right. Where can people find you on social media as well?
On social media at Corey Ganim, everywhere except Twitter at Ganim Corey.
Cool. All right. Y'all check out the man right there. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you get a free trial of Boxum at boxum.com. You can check out the educational videos I have going over that. 2D barcode, especially if you're in the wholesale, going to be huge. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Appreciate it, everyone.
See ya.